Hello, and welcome to Somehow I Dad, the podcast about dad life. This is episode 11. I don't know why I said it like that, but this is what episode it is. Joining us today from the great state of Ohio, Gordo.
Yellow.
From Alabama, Tyler Giddens.
Hola, señor.
Is that red?
And lastly, from Seattle, TJ Weaver.
Jenkins.
Welcome to Chick-fil-A. How may I take your order?
My name is
Hi,
Jerry.
welcome to Chili's.
Thank
And
you.
I'm Garrett.
No, I can't say welcome to Chili's because Tyler's already said welcome to Chili's.
I just have
But
to
I
say,
can't. But I can say my pleasure. And
I just have to say, I love how Chili's has embraced that meme. I don't know if you've been to any Chili's recently, but on the walls of Chili's, it says, "Hi, welcome to Chili's."
No way.
And I think on their menus it says it as well. And I just have to appreciate their woke culture of embracing memes that are
That's
like
crazy.
7 years old now.
It's
fantastic.
timeless. It's like a Daniel with the white vans.
Yeah.
It's timeless.
Well, hey, we've got a great episode in store for you guys. Let's get into it. Sorry, I thought I was going to throw up there. I ate dinner and cake really fast.
it probably didn't help with you chasing it with milk.
Exactly. Milk was a bad choice.
Man, this burrito is good, but it sure is filling.
It sure is filling. Baxter, bark twice if you're in Milwaukee. How are you guys doing? How's dad life for you guys? How's the family? How's life? How's it been going lately?
Going good, man. Everything's going good. Outside of them getting in a car accident, getting banged up and everything. I mean, everybody's still here and
Yeah.
everybody's still happy, man. So yeah.
Dude, that was
good.
a crazy 12-hour, 16 hours process of
Dude,
I was so concerned, but there was I am so bad in serious situations. So I kept on trying to send a joke or a GIF to lighten the mood. I'm like,
it, dude. Yeah.
it was this is not the time. I have nothing to say. I'm praying for you.
Kate and I were just so blown away that there was so little answers that you guys had the day of.
Yeah.
We're like,
dude.
how in the world is this possible?
Dude, I was in a super important meeting for a big huge buyer we were getting on board. I was in the meeting with my VP. He had just messaged me. He goes, "Hey Nick, can you take this over? I'm doing something in the background. Can you lead this meeting?" I was like, "Yeah, man, no worries. I'll take over." And then Risk keeps calling and my phone keeps ringing. I'm like, "Oh my God." So the third time I finally did a custom text and I was in a very important meeting, what's up? And I was like, "Is it important?" She's like, "Yes," with a bunch of exclamation points. I was like, "Oh crap." So I call her back. She's like, "We were just in an accident. Mason's face is all bloody. They're screaming. I don't know what's happening." I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "Where are y'all? Where are you guys at?" And she's like, they were like, "Do you guys remember that park that was by my house? It's not across the street, but it's off Lakeshore and there's
I don't.
basketball court and stuff like that." It was right in front of there. So it's a mile and a half, I think, a mile maybe at most. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But anyways, they were right over there. Well, I sold my car a month and a half ago. So I had no way to get there. So I'm I go outside and I'm standing in the driveway and I was it was like that, it's like that Travolta meme where he's just standing there and he's just looking around, but nothing's there. Yeah, and I was just "Oh my God, dude, my car! What the heck? How do I get there?" So I grabbed my bicycle and just took off, dude. It was the fastest I ever rode. By the time I got to the scene, I couldn't breathe. I was just my dad's like, "You guys need to give him a breathing treatment." I was like, "Dad, I wasn't even in the accident. Stop. And yeah, dude, it was crazy. But when I got up there, it was I don't know what took over. It was just I just had this sudden rage against this guy. So yeah, almost got.
I mean, and it's definitely it was a given rage, given the fact that he was a pizza delivery man, just probably swiping right on Tinder, and
yeah, dude, and it's
ridiculous.
Too much garlic butter on the tires.
Yeah, on the steering wheel, dude. He's like, "Ah!" But yeah, dude, that poor dude, his face like bounced off the windshield, didn't have his seatbelt on. So like he was definitely out of it.
Gosh.
But the cop's like, if you say one more word, I'm gonna put you in cuffs. I was like, all right, dude. And so I said something to the cop, and like then I just kind of like froze. I was like, I can't believe I just said that, whatever I said. And then he comes over and he like whispered in my ear. He's like, hey man, I totally would have acted worse if this was my family. He's like, I'm just in uniform now, forgive me. I was like, all right, cool, man. But they were all good. We went to the risk got taken by squad, and then the kiddos went with my parents, and yeah, we sat in the ER for 3 hours and never got seen. So luckily she had a OB appointment the next day. So we're like, well, I guess, we'll find out if everything's okay in the morning. So yeah, everything turned out to be okay, man. They just have Riss and Mason got pretty banged up. They have to go to the chiropractor for like 6 to 10 weeks or something like that. But yeah, man, all things considered, it's definitely one of the scariest things. Like I had so much adrenaline. I went from like 0 to 1,000, and then riding my bike there and like getting done with like riding a mile in like 3 minutes. I was like, ugh. It was crazy. It was like the most adrenaline I felt in a long time. But yeah, man, I'm just happy that everyone's good to go and safe. And yeah, man, really puts things into perspective too. You're like, oh my God, I could have lost my family in like a couple seconds. Now the accident wasn't like that bad. They got rear-ended. They were stopped. The guy was going like 35, 40, probably at most, but still it's like,
that jacks up the back though.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then they hit the car in front of them too. So it was like one of those things where they're like,
jeez,
it flinged around, and yeah, Mason's spine's like, it's like all freaking twisted. And yeah. But anyways, man, that's been my last couple of weeks, been dealing with that stuff. But all things considered, we're good, man. We're good. Life's good.
Good. I know I honestly can't remember the last time that Kate and I have prayed that much together.
I appreciate it, guys. Yeah.
We were praying a ton for you guys, and I know all of us were. So I'm really glad that everyone's okay and baby's okay. I mean, that was like, dude, my heart sunk when you said that they got in a car accident. I was like, dude, like this is.
Yeah, he was like major.
This is not what Gordo needs.
Yeah,
and I mean, and especially, and I feel like I have a really like a big tenderness to it because I just had a kid, So
yeah,
to like even have like a thought of like losing a child, like I was like, dude, like this is not.
And it was just like amplified too, because we had that car accident that we were in like 2 years ago when she was pregnant with Evie, and they're like, "Oh, you lost the baby," like. So we had like major PTSD from that, and we just kind of were like, we sat there for 3 hours, and she's like, as a mom, she's like, I want to get back to my other babies. Like, I want to go make sure that they're all good from that trauma, and Evie was, she hardly moved in her car seat, but the boys were pretty, Mason was pretty shaken up. Yeah. I think it was a lot of, emotional damage for him, but yeah. He always says that. So Mason, you'll appreciate me dropping that about you on here. But yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Pretty good. So I have a story. So the other day, we were all in the kitchen and we were eating, and Aspen said, "I'm going to go to my room." I said, "Okay, have fun." And she ran back there to her room and she said, "Dad, my room's a mess. Can you go pick it up?" I said, "You drug all those toys out on the floor." I said, "You can go pick them up." And she said, "Fine, I'll go clean it myself." I said, "All right." She said, she comes back down the hallway and she says, "Dad, I checked my schedule and it says I can't clean my room today." She's 3 years old. And then she walks out of the room and sits on the couch and picks up her iPad and starts watching it. She said, "But Dad," I said, "What?" And she said, "You know what my schedule does say?" And I said, "What?" She said, "It says I can play." I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say to this chick. She is 3 years old.
If it's on her schedule, shoot.
Yeah, she said, "I checked my schedule and it says I can't clean my room." Like, what 3-year-old says that?
Where did she learn that?
I don't know. Like, she's coming up with new stuff every day. Today she was talking about, I was watching this YouTuber and he got arrested in handcuffs. I said, "What?
What are you watching?"
You watch YouTube Kids. What is on there?
YouTube cops.
Yeah, YouTube cops.
Bluey had a rough day.
No, it should be like
Yeah.
cops for kids.
It's all Bluey themed.
Sir, have you been drinking milk today?
I had a couple apple juices.
That's funny, dude.
That's good stuff.
Dude, she is legitimately 3 going on 17.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, it's a battle.
She's adorable.
That's
Her
all.
baseball photos are super cute, Tyler.
They're so cute.
I watched. Oh, go Tyler.
She stood still for approximately 0.2 seconds to take those photos. Like I literally held her in place, let go, and ran out of the picture. She took the picture and then she run off. Like it was that fast. Like, it
I'm
was
outta
so
here.
hard for all 3 pictures. It was like a second of stillness.
That's funny.
And I'm guessing it probably was that way with all of the kids, not just her.
It was just her.
Oh, really?
She's the
Wow.
everybody else, they would stand there for a couple seconds and then they would drift off. But she was like, snap, and then she's gone. Like instantly just gone as fast as she can.
What did she want to do instead?
Anything but pictures.
Just
Anything?
run away. Yeah, just run away
Anything
as
but-
far as she could.
Anything but stand still.
Yes. And then she took the picture with her bat on her shoulder. And instead of holding the bat on her shoulder, she goes, just swings it. I'm standing right beside her. She almost takes me out. I was like, no, just stand still.
Have you seen the video floating around where the little girl comes out with the baseball bat and just swings and hits like her sister in the shins?
No.
No.
Oh, I'll see if I can find it. It's perfect. Life in the Weaver home has been good. I mean, I can't like there's just normal kid stuff. Like it's finally gotten to the point where like we can send them outside to go play when they're being crazy, which is beautiful. But I mean,
Because it
nothing
got
crazy.
warmer because they're getting older.
No, because it got warm.
Oh,
'Cause
okay.
it's Seattle.
You posted the picture of all your kids in the backyard the other day. Was it last night, I think?
Or like 2 nights ago.
2 nights ago, yeah. And Kate came over to me and she was like, why does it look like TJ has like his whole family over? Like they got like a daycare in their backyard, but it's just their kids. Like,
It is a daycare.
It is.
got so many kids running around. Yeah, I don't know how you guys do it. That's crazy. Four kids is a lot.
It's not that bad.
Is it
For
true
my
the
wife.
more you have, the easier it is?
No.
'Cause, like, you
So
yeah, you got 4 kids too. I mean, like Camp Mason.
1
Dom
to
helped
2
you
was fine. 2 to 3 was crazy because all of a sudden you're outnumbered. And then 4 was like, man, what's another kid?
I feel like my thoughts, I mean, I'm only 2.5 weeks into this thing. And my thought was already is if we have another kid, like going through the sleep deprivation that we are now, while also trying to take care of another child, sounds miserable.
But it's about to get better. You're 2.5 weeks in, right?
Yeah.
So you
Dude, it
got
goes by
about
so
another 2 to 3
fast.
weeks till he starts sleeping through the night. Most
Dude, it's rough right now. He
is.
so we the first like 2 weeks we slept on the couch because she couldn't get in and out of bed. So we slept on the couch. And we weren't sleeping great because it's the couch and we have to wake up every so often to feed him. But 2 nights ago we were like, let's like we haven't slept in bed since we've been home. Like let's try to sleep in bed. And hasn't really been great with the bassinet. So we were like, this is going to be rough. So we tried it and literally we tried like a different swaddle and it was amazing. Like he fell right to sleep in the bassinet and we were able to sleep in bed. However, he has been waking up almost to the minute every 2 hours from the start of his last feed. So like we are getting a solid hour and a half, maybe hour and 20 minutes of sleep in between his feedings, like consistently through the night. And that sucks. So I'm ready for that to be over because it's like we're finally getting rest in our bed, but it is like little cat naps through the whole night. And
Oh yeah.
That's
Fun.
just where you're at, bro. It's not going to change for a little while.
Yeah, it's like that for the first several weeks. And I mean, Ashley just corrected me a minute ago. She said that there's still 2-year-olds that don't sleep through the night. So your life might be hell for the next 3 years. So good luck. I hope it's just the next 3 weeks.
Jeez.
But
Jeez.
She says
Until
we just
next
got
time.
lucky.
Yeah.
What's funny
Right.
though is the first in our family for me and Em, our first kid was like the biggest tease because Luke slept through the night like right away. It was beautiful. Everything was perfect. We're like, this is so easy. Why do people complain? And then 2 kids later, like, I mean, each one of them did not sleep through the night. And now Levi is the one who comes in at like 2 or 3 in the morning, goes, hi. I'm like,
Hi.
what the hell?
Just go to bed.
Yeah. It's,
Aspen slept through the night from like the first week. She was sleeping almost till 6 a.m.
yeah.
Like from bedtime to 6 a.m. she would just sleep. And the doctor told us not to wake her up. So just she'll wake up when she's hungry. And she'd wake up at 6 a.m.
So
every day.
we've heard such different things. Like some people are like, they'll wake you up when they're hungry. Like you don't have to worry about it. And then other people are like, no, you have to wake them up every 2 to 3 hours to feed them.
Never
Yeah.
wake up your kid.
Yeah, never.
It is a
We
gift
never
from
did.
God. Do not spit in the face of God.
Dude, because last night he woke up every almost 2 hours to the minute, we were like, and he slept for like 3 or 4 hours at a time throughout the day. We were like, well, maybe if we just wake him up every 2 hours throughout the day, he'll sleep longer at night. So that's what we're going to try tonight. Hopefully it works. Probably won't, but we're shooting our shot anywhere we can find an open lane. So
That is a hope, I guess.
That's all you can do.
dude,
Also, why does Gordo have a hubcap on his wall?
He's a civic.
why? Because he is a
LS1,
civic.
yo.
It's a hubcap.
It's
Sorry,
a rice
I
probably-
civic, bro.
He probably stole it from the Domino's driver.
Probably.
It's his trophy.
This is mine now. Totally my hubcap.
Yeah, Oakley did the same thing. She woke up every 2 hours until about maybe 3 weeks ago. So it didn't last too long, but I think alternating those feedings between me and Ashley were like beneficial to sleep. Because
Yeah,
like if you alternate, you get like 4 hours in a row.
Kate just introduced a bottle to him today. And he took it well. So
It's all about the
definitely-
nipple on the bottle. Like, and
Yeah.
what's worse is each kid had a different favorite nipple. So you know how many bottles I've bought?
Jeez.
It hurts.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get it figured out. And I mean, I'm a super light sleeper, so I'm gonna wake up even if she tries to take him for a shift. But at least I'll be able to hopefully go right back to bed and not have to be up and walking around the house for 40 minutes.
See, that's
Time.
crazy.
Yeah.
I'm the deepest sleeper of all time. The only things that wake me up are like the sounds of puke. Like a gag, I will wake up like that. But
I'm a pretty light sleeper. I've been having him sleep in our room with the bassinet. I wake up almost to every noise.
every
Babies-
little
and-
sniffle, every
Yeah.
little whimper,
Babies make a lot of noise, so
they do.
it's really cute in the middle of the day, but in the middle of the night, you're like, are you alive? Are you dying? Are you,
Mhm.
Yeah.
are you choking on spit up? Like, what's going on over here?
Right.
If you watch the video I sent, you got to watch it with sound. I hope it's actually a good sound.
Oh! Oh! I was expecting that to be like a inflatable bat, not a
No.
not a real metal bat.
Jeez.
Dude, she hit a dinger with that, dude. Oh
I
my gosh.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
funny. But yeah, life's been good other than that. Just figuring out sleeping rhythms and routines and trying to figure out how to. I'm really interested to see what life's going to be like going back to work. I was been meaning to ask you guys about that. Is how do you? I mean, Tyler, you're probably. I don't know. You haven't gone back yet, have you? Or do you go back next
Tomorrow.
week?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So next podcast we can talk about that.
I was like, I was like, I feel okay right now. Like, I feel like I'm finally kind of getting into the rhythms a little bit. Today was a rough day, but like, I feel like I'm getting into the rhythms a little bit, but I'm worried about going back to work, like working a full day and that having to come home and not get sleep. Like how you guys adjusted to that or any tips for that or. I don't know. I'm interested to see how that goes.
I never took that much time off on any of our kids.
Yeah, you
but
said
that's but that's also the benefit of like my like we live perfectly between my mom and my mother-in-law. So honestly, I wasn't needed.
Mm-hmm.
And until see, I've been with my company 8 years this year. So the last two kids were born under that. But my wife was like super, my wife is superwoman. So like literally as long as I was there for her when she needed me, she had the kids handled.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
just needed to be present
Available.
for her. Not so much even in like the dad role. It's definitely I was more of a like a husband than a father in those moments.
For sure.
But that's that's each to each his own. I know Alex did the same thing, I think, where he didn't take much time off. He was working. As long as he was there to keep the kitchen clean or bring food home or watch the baby while the wife took a shower to get the smell of spit up off her clothes and off her skin, you know.
Let's dive into that. What do you? I know TJ, you wanted for us to talk about that this week, and I think it's a great topic. What are your guys' thoughts on technology and parenting? What are some things that you've noticed with your kids that you want to implement, that you didn't implement, that you wish you did, or just anything all-encompassing technology? How do you guys, as parents, kind of handle that in a day and age where technology is everything?
I am totally fine with my kids having their little Kindle tablets and stuff. Like they watch it. My biggest like gauge on it is, can they play without technology? Do they still have a good imagination? Are they just as fun when they're playing with their army men or their Barbies or their doll houses and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And we definitely do, like, we're taking breaks from the pads. Go outside, go play. Go play in your rooms without it. But my current, what I am more paranoid about is the subtle indoctrination. I don't know how to say it nicer than that. Is the content in some of the shows that I'm like, let's just go back to Dexter's Lab and Jimmy Neutron,
Veggie Tales.
Oh God,
and Veggie Tales, where
Dexter's
you
Lab,
know,
no.
where there wasn't any of that like societal innuendo getting
subliminal messaging and
yeah. And I mean, Luke has gotten to the age, he's 8 now, where he's like watching YouTube videos on like in the kids YouTube app,
yeah,
watching people play like Minecraft or Fall Guys and stuff like that, and I'm fine with it. But then some of the like the ads that come in, I'm very much not okay with.
yeah,
Or some of the suggested videos where like this was a Gordo moment where like we're Luke like I take their pads because they don't have pads after dinner on school nights, so they get a good night's sleep. But like I take it away and like I plug them in, and if you plug in a Kindle, they always power up, like, and it's just last thing. And like Luke was watching this Minecraft thing, but then in the bottom like recommended videos is like SCPs, like, which I don't know if you guys know what those are. It's like
I do not.
urban legendy kind of things, like mysterious creatures and stuff like that. And
it's Gordo's side podcast.
well, no, it's literally like not necessarily. Some of it is kind of mildly occult, like thinking about like possessed objects and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And other was just like kind of like horror movie stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is SCP-063 for kids, but that's not a kid-friendly topic in my world.
Yeah.
So it's not so much the technology that I have a problem with. It's how to control the content coming in.
For sure.
Because I feel like societally, it is not easy for parents to have a good grasp on what their kids can access.
It's dang near impossible.
Exactly.
With everything that's going on. I mean, the majority of the time your kids are on their tablets so that you can get stuff done around the house or you can do other stuff. So it's, and essentially it's kind of a way for you to not have to keep an eye on them. But
it's electronic babysitting.
Yeah, it is, but it's almost gotten to the point now where it's like you almost have to keep an eye on them, or at least kind of peek an eye over the shoulder every once in a while to make sure that the content they're watching is okay. And
yeah, and even in the good shows, like there's stuff that I have disagreed with in shows that I'm like, this is a really solid show until this episode, and now why does it matter? Like what does this have any point in the development of my child?
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, there's kid shows that are freaking awesome. That, like, my kids have learned a lot of stuff from. Like Little Einsteins, Bluey, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, stuff like that. All good shows. Yeah. But then all of a sudden they'll slip in this episode where I'm like, why are we talking about climate change on a kid's show?
Right. Like it matters anyway.
Yeah, they need to start talking about chemtrails on kids' shows.
Oh, but Gordo, I saw one today. I almost sent it to you. It was.
Why didn't you? I'm offended.
There's a lot of things.
If you think
that
of
I don't
me and
want
don't send it to me, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I don't want you to come get to the opinion that it's like, oh, here's TJ sending me his wacky videos. I'm his one.
No,
wacky
that's how I feel about Tyler. No, you're good, Tyler. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
Tyler used to always send me TikToks. I'd be like, Tyler, I don't have TikTok, and you just keep sending me TikToks. And
but do you not see any of the TikToks I send you?
No, eventually Tyler broke me after like 6 months of sending me TikToks every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was like, you know what? I got to start watching some of these. I just hate, like, I don't have TikTok. I never will, even though it's probably the most trusted app right now. Shout out China. I hate that it pops up a video after I watch a video. Like, I can't close my browser fast enough. Like, it's brought up so many sus videos where Bristol will just be like, look at me like that. And I'm like, no. This is something Tyler sent me. He's like, why is Tyler sending you that? I'm like, he's not. It was a video that played after. I got so sick of explaining myself that I was like, all right, not watching.
But if you
so
have,
anyways, that was a side trail.
If you have TikTok, do that. It doesn't do that if you have TikTok because you have your own custom for you.
It's like
that makes sense because every time
of like you pay the extra dollars.
Every time I watch a TikTok that you guys send me, it always autoplays some video afterwards. And I do exactly what Gordo does. Like I almost try to like time the end of the video to close my tab as the video's ending so that it doesn't come up with some crazy video afterwards.
Dude, it's always something terrible. It's alwaing
something sexually related. There's always some loud moaning going on, and I'm not here for
That's why I deleted Instagram. I was like, I'm not even having that temptation on Instagram. I'm like, I'll get rid of this. So then all the TikToks that everybody sends me, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like rapid fire clicking off, like, get out of here. It'd be like something biblical to some girl's butt. I'm like, no, we're good.
Instagram is very similar, but it's like worse. Terrible. So if you watch like 10 videos of something, it's automatically going to be in your little reel page, and it's just full, and then you can't watch anything else to get rid of it. Like you got to watch 20 videos of something else to get rid of that, and then 30 videos.
It's the worst.
It's awful.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
But all that to say, back to the first thing, they were talking about how there are these radar sites in Arizona that control the weather.
There are.
Next Rads, I just sent that to Gordo before the podcast started.
Are you serious?
Yes. I'll send it to you.
Why do I send it? See, that's why I didn't send it to you, because Tyler had me covered.
Yeah, dude, they got them in Alaska. They got them actually probably pretty close to you, TJ, too. I think they have them in British Columbia.
But
Yeah, don't even get me started. Don't. I'm too tired to get started on a rabbit trail.
Literally going like meteorological.
Look, I look like a conspiracy guy, dude. I don't even leave my house.
That's the one. That is the one. Yeah, exactly. Where they're like showing like Doppler footage of like all these storms that start over these radar dishes.
They all start from the same spot.
Yeah. That's a good segue into technology though. TikTok.
Tyler, how do you guys handle technology?
So it's tough. Usually, I don't think we necessarily limit it to a certain amount of minutes or hours per day. She always gets to watch it before bed. So like when we're laying her down, trying to get her relaxed to go to sleep, we'll let her watch it, but we'll let her know, hey, you've got 20 minutes left. You got 10 minutes left. You got 5 minutes left, 3 minutes left, 1 minute left. And we'll just kind of count it down so she knows it and we're not just like snatching it from her.
Yeah.
That's how we treat nighttime.
Because that becomes a fight. And then you've lost all the good progress you've made.
Yes, because then she's screaming and she's up and her heart rate's up. It's ridiculous. But if you time it, she's fine. Like tonight I did it. She didn't even want to go to sleep, but I said, you got 1 minute. And then I said, lock your tablet. She said, okay. Then she locked it. But throughout the day, we haven't gotten to the point to where it's a problem. So we haven't addressed it. Like she usually watches it when she wants to. But she's a pretty active kid, so she likes to do stuff rather than watch her tablet. So she watches it while she eats lunch or whatever, 20 minutes, and then she goes and plays.
Or it's just playing in the background, and she's not even watching it.
Yeah.
That happens a lot in our home, too.
And
where I'm like, why do I hear so many pads going? And they're like,
all
watching it.
They're all at full volume, too.
There's a pet peeve of mine. I tell them all the time, if you are downstairs, half volume.
Yeah. Yeah, we keep hers down. She's pretty good about that. But like, we need to get something done. We're like, hey, you want to go watch your iPad? Sure. She'll go sit on the couch and watch her iPad. She'd rather watch it on her iPad than she would the TV. Because she can control YouTube Kids and click on the video she wants to watch. She loves it. So I don't think it's a problem.
I don't think it's a problem. And my goal is not to be a stick in the mud. Because technology is out there. And eventually I'm going to be the old guy who's calling his kids to have them help me with my technology. I know it. But it's tough. Like, I hate that there are people out there who try to sneak in stuff into like the kids' YouTubes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm terrified of that because believing in the spiritual, I don't want something spiritually super dark that my kids are going to watch.
Yeah. There's a lot of like, I remember a few years ago, there was this thing going around too, where people would upload a kid's video that, it's 10, 20 minutes long, but in the middle of the video would be a cut of them like telling kids to do like awful things.
Yeah.
Like I remember a few years ago hearing about one about like this guy had in the middle of videos was like telling kids that in the middle of the night, they need to walk down to their kitchen and turn the oven on and just leave the oven on in the night and like awful things that could lead to people getting injured or even dying because these kids and they're in the video. They're like, hey, like we have a secret mission for you. Like you can't tell your parents. You can't tell anyone. Like you're a secret agent and you need to do this. And the kids are, they're believing it. And there's awful, evil people out there that just want to do awful things and see the world burn because they think it's fun. And
that's what scares me more. It's not that my kids would ever search something out at this age. It's more what is the world trying to put into my kids?
Well, that's the thing, man, is the algorithm. I mean, that's like going back to Instagram, like as an adult male, like the algorithm tries to show me half naked women, right? And so like the algorithm for kids, it's the same thing. I mean, not to get too deep, but we know who the prince of the power of the air is. So it's like, if you think about it, you break it down, like, and I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everything on the internet is satanic, but it really is a tool that can be used for pretty bad stuff or pretty good stuff, and I think that, I mean, you just look around and everything's just targeting our kids right now. I mean, it's really targeting the next generation. And I feel like it's progressively gotten worse. Our grandparents and then our parents were subjected to the things on TV, and I say programming, but that's what they call TV is the programming that they put on it, when in reality it technically is programming in a sense. But anyways, then we have our generation. We grew up with these like innocent cartoons, like we talk about Dexter's Lab and stuff like that. But even those, like I've seen clips of that, like, oh my God, now as an adult seeing things that they threw in those cartoons. And then now you have it where it's like, I mean, it's 10 times worse with our kiddos, and our boys. Like I just tell them all the time, I'm like, when you guys are on YouTube, and I trust them, like I know that, they're at the age where we've been able to teach them, like, here's things that you don't do, here's things that you don't search out, but they have told me times where they have seen videos like that, Garrett, where there was things that came up, and then this whole thing with Mr. Beast right now with one of the, I mean, that they love Mr. Beast, like they love his channel. And then now all of a sudden you got these, and I wouldn't even get into it for the sake of not getting our podcast taken off air, but like you all probably have seen the controversy of Mr. Beast and stuff like that. And it's just,
I honestly haven't.
Oh, really? You want me to?
No, and I'm
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm prior to what you're about to tell me, I'm a pretty big Mr. Beast fan. So
well,
what's kind of going on?
Well, it was just interesting. One of the guys, Chris, came out as transgender, and it's not only that, but he literally quoted a Bible verse that the Legion of Demons quoted, and like I know people are like, oh, it could have just been whatever, but he literally said we are Legion, and like I was like, whoa. So it's a lot darker, and people want to write that stuff off and be like, oh no,
it's not anything with Jimmy. It's just like part of it.
No. Super weird about it the whole time. Like while Chris is in the videos, he's kind of weird the whole time.
Yeah,
like, you can tell he's like super uncomfortable, but he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, he doesn't know what to do because he can't. I mean, he's faced with that. On the flip side, though, I don't know the name of the guy, but he got baptized. One of the guys from Mr. Beast got baptized. Tyler, do you know his name? Chandler? Okay. That's an Alabama name. That's why you know that. So Chandler. Yeah, Chandler.
Chandler Moore.
Yeah, Chandler.
That sounded Boston-y, Garrett. Chandler.
Chandler.
Have you been playing with Mike again? He's been playing with Mike.
I did play with Mike last week.
That's it. There it is.
He'll play with Mike, but he won't play with me. Imagine that.
Oh my God. That's because
this is my last podcast, everybody.
Oh God. No, but I think with the boys, like we're definitely, like Riss and I say all the time, we're like man, because we have control over their phones. We have that Google. We link it through Google because they both have Androids, so like we can control what they search up, everything like that. Like we can see pretty much everything, and they leave their phones at home, and Riss goes through them and makes sure that there's nothing too crazy on there. But there's definitely been times that we had to correct them, like, hey, I'm like, guys, maybe we should probably stay away from watching Mr. Beast for a while. But not only that, like taking the time to explain again what we believe and kind of reiterate that, and not letting them make their own decision, but letting them, like, I don't know how to word it. It's not like we're like, hey guys, here's what we believe, but go out and do anything that you want. It's like, here's what we believe, but I think in order for you to come to believe the same things, like you have to go through that and make the decision to believe that. So like you have to make the decision not to watch that, or not make the decision not to watch that. Obviously there's going to be consequences, but like you have to make that decision. Like, do I want to follow Jesus? Is this right? Is this something I want to put in my mind? So that's kind of the approach that we take with them, because we've kind of done, I mean, we started having, we had the boys when we were freshly 20. So like we were learning as we were going. And then with Evie, honestly, like we started getting off on a bad foot with screen time, like a lot of Cocomelon, a lot of Bluey. And then something really, really, really freaking weird happened. She is terrified of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. I mean, absolute, just a crazy scream, like freaks out. It's the craziest thing. And I don't know why. It's like, it was in Cocomelon, and anytime Twinkle Twinkle Little Star came on, she would like freak out. So then Riss and I were like, all right, well, she's young enough that we'll just turn the TV off and read books. So that's what we've done with her, honestly. And like, she's cute because the only thing that she does is she'll like walk around with Riss's phone all day, and she'll like take selfies of herself accidentally, and like pictures of her little toes and different things like that, just by pressing the camera button like rapidly. But all around, like we've gotten her pretty much. I mean, she doesn't watch anything. She sat and watched The Office with us tonight, but like outside of that, she has no craving for that stuff. And honestly, like I'm not going to give her my iPad or my phone and turn on YouTube, because I think that was like, I don't want to say a mistake because I'm not being judgmental towards other parents, but it was something that we definitely utilized to our advantage when the boys were young, to the point where they're like, we need to get on YouTube or we need to have screen time or whatever. And it's not that I want to limit. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's also tough as a dad or as a man. I would say as men, we are very visual. So the draw of technology and screens will always be stronger on the boys than it is the girls. Because I even see that, like, we got boy, girl, girl, boy. The boys love their pads. They're watching Power Rangers and Lego stuff. And the girls are making homes in their dollhouse, using their pads to play music in the background. And that's like where I've cultivated their worship music love. Like they'll go in and have Alexa play like worship, like elevation. Like they know what elevation is. I know. But the gender, like that fundamental, like guys being visual, I see it in the boys a lot.
Yeah.
And like I've always been like a lover of like screen time, video games. Growing up, it was the GameCube, playing the 64, my Game Boy. I loved a screen where my sister was reading books and listening to music. And I see that a lot in my daughters, where they are less about, like, they love their pad time. They watch shows and stuff like that. But it's definitely a male predisposition to chase the visual. Is the best way I can say it. And I see it, and I'm partially like I'm terrified slightly. We go to the whole like not, I don't want to call it a generational, but like the sins of the father to the kids, and that terrifies me.
Generational curses.
See, I didn't want to say it like that, but yes, exactly. Where I know what I struggled with, and I
think that's kind of like, I mean, because my kid's not old enough where we have to worry about screen time. Like that's kind of where my mind automatically goes, is like, where in my life has technology really screwed me up?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's 100% pornography. And and I was interested to see, Gordo, kind of your response on this, because I know your kids are older, and I mean, are they both in middle school, or 6th and 5th grade, or I mean, I know they're like close to
6th and 4th. Yeah,
6th and 4th. So I mean, I was introduced to pornography when I was in 4th grade. So I mean, how do you as a parent of two kind of middle school boys kind of operate that and kind of navigate,
and where
that
society is trying to make it so accessible and so,
I mean, as we get older and as time goes on, it's easier and easier to stumble across that stuff. And
that's a good question.
I was really interested to see how you guys kind of handle that. And well, if you're comfortable talking about that.
No, 100%, man. Yeah, 100%. It's funny you brought that up, because I was gonna transition to that next, but no, I mean, I was addicted to it from the time I was 12 till the time I was 28. So I'm very open about that, because I think it's something that I think it's very damaging to men, no matter what the age, and I think it's damaging to our mindset and growth and different things like that. So really, how I navigate that, and I've tried a bunch of different ways, but like I said, we have the connections on their phones, so like they can't do certain things. So I trust them in that regard. Also, like I said, Riss is constantly checking their phones and stuff like that. We haven't seen anything like pop up or anything, that was like alarming or anything like that. It's definitely it's right now, like it's so much easier to access, and it's so much more downplayed in society that it's normal because it's on the TV, it's on commercials, it's
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
pictures on the internet. I mean, it's really become a point where it's like even as a guy, like you can almost justify it because it's normal now. Like,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
don't want them to ever feel like this is a normal thing or to look at women, in that regard. And so really one of the biggest things that I think outside of all of like the typical police parenting and stuff like that is really I think spending quality time with them, and I think back on
Mhm.
the vulnerable moments that I had when I was 12, 13, 14 years old. And those vulnerable moments were really times that, and this is no fault to my dad whatsoever, but those vulnerable times were when times that I was alone and you know, just kind of bored, So I think that's
Yeah.
something that I've been doing with that is like, we've been trying to, outside of tonight, we've been trying to like, you know, wind down the last couple hours of the night with just watching like a documentary or something together and just really
Mhm.
taking that whole, them falling asleep on the couch and then getting them in bed versus them sitting on their phones and scrolling around before bed, like it
Yeah.
really just trying to like pour into them. And not only that, but really just trying to pour in like a biblical foundation. I mean, I've started having them read this book called Understanding Jesus. It just talks about like, it just takes the cultural view of back then and helps you better understand Jesus and his actions based on the culture 2,000 years ago. So just trying to
Mhm.
do things like that. And again, like those aren't bulletproof methods. I think that a lot of it rides on, hey, I will do everything that the Holy Spirit whispers to me to do in that regard to save them
Yeah.
from that baggage that I held on to. And
Mhm.
then like TJ said, I've thought a lot about that. I've studied iniquity and transgressions, which really can fall into generational. Iniquity is like something that's like inside you, or transgression, it's like something that you continuously do over and over again, and
Yeah.
those can definitely be passed down from generation to generation. And
Yeah.
my dad shared with me, he's like, dude, that like when I mean, my dad and I didn't come clean to each other until like, I mean, literally it's probably like a year or two ago at the furthest, that we both struggled with that as men. And so that's
Mhm.
something that like cutting that out in my life and my dad's life and us being like free from that really just helps us
Yeah.
pour into this next generation. Like, hey guys, like this is something you don't want to deal with, you don't want to mess with, you even taking it as far as like, hey, like you guys, it is something very precious that you will want to save till marriage, even when you find that right, like stemming into those talks and different things like that. And yeah, so I really think that quality time with them and just and having just taking that temptation away by like having them utilize other means to fall asleep. And so
Mhm.
that's really, that's definitely been something that's been on mine and Marissa's mind as they get older. Dom is 12 now. And I just couldn't even imagine that, that's when the addiction started for me. And it's like,
Yeah.
um, anything that I can do to protect them from that baggage that I had for many years and save possibly their future wives from having to deal with what
Deal
I
with
put
that.
Marissa through. I we
Yeah.
we talked about it the other
That
day.
was
Yeah.
that was one of the hardest things I've had to do.
Hmm.
Um, was and it was funny enough. It was. I mean, it was within weeks of Kate and I quote unquote dating.
Yeah.
I remember exactly where we were. We were at Panera on East State Street, or on Perryville, and we just sit down and talked about what dating would look like for us, and kind of what my intentions were, what her intentions were, and what it was going to look like for us. And I remember she asked me, "Do you watch pornography, or have you watched pornography?" And like it was one of the hardest conversations we've ever had to had, because I knew early on in Kate and I's dating relationship that I wanted to marry her, and to look what I thought and what was my wife in the eyes and say, yeah, like I did, and I'm working really hard to stop, um, was one of the hardest things I had to do. And and it put her through a lot, and even early on, I mean, it was a lot for her to process and a lot for her to kind of work through as well. And I don't ever want my kids to have that conversation. And I know it's like one of the biggest uphill battles in the world is to try to fight, to try to keep your kids away from that, because it almost seems like every single guy on the planet deals with it at some point. And
yeah.
Well, I think we all do, and I think that's the honest conversation, is having that conversation. Like, you guys are going to have these feelings. It's natural. Like, that's how God wired us, is to want to have sexual relations. I mean, it's a desire, in all men. And I agree with you, man. Like 28 was that breaking point, when my wife was, and she was leaving me. She already had planned to, because this is something that she knew that I dealt with early on. Like we discussed same type of thing, she asked me the same thing, not when we started dating, but like probably like 14, 15, she started getting privy to my, sneakiness around that area. And I mean, I probably told her a dozen times, and I did, and I genuinely thought that I quit, and it crept back in, and it just became something that I dealt with. And, I think there's a heavy demonic presence around it, because it's like every time you get rid of it, the Bible talks about how basically the demons go out and they get more, and they keep tempting you more and more and more. And it gets harder every time,
Yep.
Yeah.
And man, I just told her the other day, I was like basically on the verge of tears, because we started talking about it again. It stemmed from an argument we had, and then she, not to like air our arguments, but she had brought up something in those regards, and I was just like, and it was more so of like, our argument got to the point where, and these are very rare. These happen like once every 5 years when the moon's like half full or whatever. I don't know. She's pregnant.
When Goat Man's on the prowl.
Yeah, when Goat Man's out. But
when Goat Man's got a Glock running through the neighborhood.
Yeah. And she brought it up, and I asked her. I was like, Riz, have you forgiven me of that? Because like, I want you to know that is the most pain that I've ever put anybody through. And seeing you go through that was like the most hurtful time in my life. Like, not mean. I'm not trying to play the victim, but I was just telling her, like, I'm however many, I'll be 32 this year. So 5 years removed from that, in like, I still regret it. Like, if I could take one thing back, that's the only mistake I would change, because it like, it didn't do anything. It's not like a mistake that we learned from and then we moved on, because I've made a lot of mistakes, and those ones I'm like, okay, I'm actually kind of happy that I made mistakes because I learned from it. That one though, it's not. It's like, I wish I could take those images out of my.
There's no good. Yeah. There's no good that comes from it. There's no redeeming qualities.
The thing that I really want to train my kids, because it was, and I would say this is only like in the past 3 years, of how important it is to take captive those thoughts. Like, the like, you read about it in the Bible, and then the power of when you have that sinful thought come through and say, no, that's not of you. That's not who I want to be. That's not of God. That's not what I want to be. The power that has.
Yeah.
Like, of all the quitting this and I'm good, I'm done with it. In my world, and this is not talking for you guys, in my experience, all of those were so very fruitful, because I was doing it out of my own strength.
Yeah.
But the power that came from, you get that thought and you're like, no, that's not of God. I'm a man of God. That is not what a man of God does. I'm not going to think about it, because almost everything that I've struggled with strongly in my life has been the thought, the entertaining of the thought, then the dwelling on the thought, and then acting out the thought, you know? So if you nip it in the bud at that start where it comes in, you're like, nope, that's not me. I'm not doing it. Like, the power of that, at least for me, I saw a huge a bolster to like my spiritual strength, so to speak. And it wasn't one of those like, I'm not casting myself at God's feet to pray. It's more like taking the authority over the thoughts, because I mean, the one that got me, I think my pastor talked about it, is that the devil can't see what's in your heart, but he can put things in your brain. Like when you're redeemed, your heart's been washed clean. Like you are before God, you're blameless, and he owns your heart, but your brain is still fully wired to the flesh.
Yeah.
And so like do you let that your sinful man, your natural, like I would say, this is going to sound really bad, the desire to watch porn and stuff like that is very natural. That's why it's so easy in society.
Yeah.
To resist that is spiritual.
Yeah.
So the temptations are not spiritual, so to speak. They're not of your spirit, your God man. They are of your physical man, your brain.
Yeah.
And that's where taking those, like letting your spirit overcome your flesh is so hugely important.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. It's, I don't know about you guys too, but I was definitely a grace abuser for quite a while too. Like, oh, this is just one last time, and then I know God will forgive me, you know. And then like that spiraled, and that was probably many of the later years of it. Is like, oh, it's okay because God will forgive me. But yeah, man, the regret in the how I'd feel the next day, and just like, you know, counting down like, okay, well, that was the last time. And then again, it would happen. It's like, that's the last time. And it's like, it never ends. It never, ever ends. And I mean, we could go into it further, and we could, but I won't, but we could talk about like, I mean, there was times where like, I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and I don't know if it's like sleep paralysis or what, but it literally felt like there was like some type of female demonic entity in my room constantly tormenting me. Like, you know, I'd wake up, and I don't know if it was in a dream, and I'd just like wake up, but just like this laughing, like this evil woman laughter. Like there was so much darkness that surrounded the whole, you know, the whole act of doing that just like, it got to a point where it's like, I physically can't handle the darkness that comes over me and that comes into my house after I do this. Like, you know, I literally, and I was so grateful because I prayed. I was like, God, I'll never be free from this unless I'm caught. Like that's the plain and simple truth. And it was like a week later, you know, I was caught, and it was like, even though it was the most hurtful time for my wife, it was like the most freeing time, because I just knew, I was like, no matter what happens, like I know I'm free of it. And then just like what TJ said, like walking in that, like, you know, the thoughts are always going to pop in our head. You know, they're going to pop in our head, but it's like what we do with those thoughts. It's like our love of God has to be so much more powerful than our love for the flesh and to please the flesh. And it's like, man, you know, the more you deny the flesh, it's crazy too, because it is very spiritual. The more you deny the flesh, the closer to the Father you get. And then the more you give into the flesh, it's like the closer you get, like I said, to like this spirit that was over my house that was just like taunting me and haunting me. It was just like, you know, the closer I'd get to the darkness as I would continue in the sin. And I think it goes, I think that goes for any sin, you know, any type of addiction. It's like, the more we resist that temptation, the stronger we get, you know, in Christ. And the more we give in, it's like, it just takes us further and further and further until we just, you know, until there's nothing left. And I think that's what it really means when the Bible talks about like sin leads to death. And it's talking about the spiritual death, because we can get to a point where like we kill our spirit in this life, but you know, in the next life, if we go to hell, it leads to that as well. It leads to that spiritual death. So it's
well, and conversely, the more in tune to the spirit you get, the less hold your physical, earthly, sinful man.
Yeah.
And it was weird, and this is not in like I wasn't a grace abuser. It was the like I was tired of living in the shame. You know, like where I felt like I couldn't even pray to God because of how much baggage I had. Like, I feel like that's another flip side of that disconnection from God. Like some people, like it will make you harden to God and do the, oh, he'll forgive me. And then others, it'll just be like, God doesn't want to talk to me. And that's a different kind of spiritual attack against you. Like, I am so unworthy that who am I to even go before God to even ask for help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my worship leader on Sunday talked about, it was based off a sermon from the week before, but the pastor said, and then the worship leader went more into it, was, what if you had as much trust in God as you have trust in gravity? Like, every step you take, you know you're not going to float off into outer space.
Yeah.
What if your spiritual walk was like that? That into the firmament. Sorry,
Thank you.
the other heaven.
The second heaven.
What is that? The second heaven. Yeah. Sorry. There's no such thing as space.
There's not.
But there was that was a challenge for me, and that's I'm just gonna keep going.
No, keep going.
But
That's a
what
topic for a different time.
Glass ceiling.
what I want to talk to my kids or encourage my kids is that foundational, like, God's got you. Like, and if you can trust God, like, she went to that verse about, like, if he clothes the sparrows and gives them food and everything, how much more will I take care of you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how much more should you be able to trust in, like, bigger things if, like, you trust gravity? Like, you're not going to just step off and float off into the firmament.
I think the reason why is if you trusted God as much as you trust gravity, I mean, you know gravity's there. Like, without a doubt, gravity is there holding you down. It's, without a doubt, it's a fact that it's holding you down. I think that's the difference between, like, faith and knowledge. Like, faith is the evidence. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So it's something that you don't know, but it's something that you believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the difference between faith and something that you know.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be faith the size of a mustard seed if you knew it. Like, if you knew it, you couldn't have faith. It's just a fact.
Which is why I always think the story of doubting Thomas. I always read the Bible and I'm like, why is that story in there? Like, why does that? What part of that? Like, doubting Thomas saw these things and still doubted, and then he goes, unless I see the holes in his hands and the hole in his side, I'm not going to believe. And Jesus comes up to him and is like, how about you? Like, here they are. And I love that story. And not just because my name is Thomas. I connect with that because I am often one of those, like, very logical. If I can't see it, it's not there, you know? And I love that story because if in my doubts, like, God has the ability and has at times, like, literally just, like, come over, slap me in the face and be like, hey, listen up, stupid.
Yeah.
Here I am.
100%.
Like, and I love those. Like, I love reading back through the Bible again right now is been very, I keep on catching little things where I'm like, I know I've read this before, but it meant nothing at the time. And that's why that story's in there.
Yeah.
So we kind of got off technology there.
No, I think bringing it back to technology, I think it's how can we as parents set our kids up for success? And I mean, that's kind of your job as a parent as a whole, but when it pertains to technology is what can we do with the technology that our kids have in their hands to set them up for success? And when it comes to stuff like pornography, or even, like, I think back of the damaging conversations I had in middle school when I had, like, my phone in my room late at night, you know, because I was trying to talk to girls or getting in fights with people. Like, how can I as a parent set my kid up for success and not have him have to fight those same battles that I fought, and try to talk him through that stuff instead. And one of the things that I've strongly considered is not, once he has a phone, not letting him keep it with him in his room at night. And you know, you can charge your phone in the kitchen. You can charge your phone in mommy and daddy's room.
I'm highly considering doing the Wi-Fi off to specific devices at night.
Yeah. I know Disney has a app that can do that, I think, or like a router.
Do we trust Disney? I don't think we trust Disney.
I don't know.
We don't
That's
trust
another
Disney.
subject, but
We don't trust
Or
Disney.
gravity.
but
Or gravity.
but,
Gravity is a fact. Anyway, sorry.
And like I've like you and just giving him like a physical alarm clock instead of having a phone, and just kind of trying to eliminate those temptations as much as possible. And
Yeah.
I mean this conversation about technology could go on for forever because we're pretty focused on kind of where our kids are at now and a little bit into the future. But I mean, even when you get to social media and stuff like that, like that's a whole nother ball.
Well, because we can only, honestly, we can only shield them from what we have struggled with.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know what's going to be in 5 years. I know what I struggled with when I was 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Like, you know, but everything changes as time progresses. And as I go through it, I also am struggling with the fact that I can only do so much. But at the end of the day, no matter how hard I work on it, I got to put God first in the raising of my children, because he is the person. I can do everything as a parent, but at the end of the day, it's all doing stuff in my own strength, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, even if you're trying to shield your kids from absolutely everything that you had to fight through and you had to work through as a kid or as a teenager, one of two things is going to happen. One, you're not going to be able to do it because there's so many things that you have to try to protect them from. Or two, you do end up protecting them from, say you do protect them from everything, they're then not equipped to handle how to navigate that kind of stuff on their own once they move out. And that's, I mean, as a parent, that's totally your end goal, is how to set them up for success outside of your care when they go off to college or go off to whatever they want to do after schooling. Is how do I set them up for success without me? And
for me, it was what introduced me to a lot of that stuff was friends. And what's worse is they were church friends.
Yeah.
So it's like you can be as proactive as possible. And then you're just like, you send them to church, and then the church kids are the problem.
Yeah. Because their parents are trying to do the same thing. They're like, my kid's awful, he needs to go to church. And then you've got all these awful kids that are at church because their parents think it's helping them, but
it's just a bunch of hormonal kids doing stupid stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just opening anything it's just opening the door for conversation with your kids and
being willing to listen to your kids' struggles without judgment.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. It's hard too, because it's like it's even if you're not intending to be judgmental per se, it's hard. It's probably got to be hard to listen to your kids' struggles because it's probably breaking your heart,
right?
And it may come across to your kids as judgmental, but when you're like this breaks my heart that you're going through this, and it's just how what you're communicating. And
yeah, that's like podcast in a couple of years when I hit teenage kids. I'm like, I don't know what to do with these.
Yeah.
And I go to the Bible verse where it's like these kids that you gave me. Like
yeah. What do we do with these kids?
Yeah. It's tough. That's the challenge of trying to raise spiritually strong kids in a world that is diabolically opposed to you.
Somehow we dad.
Somehow we parent.
Somehow.
Oh no, it's rough. But yeah, there's a lot of like, I don't want to use God as a cop-out and say, God, you take care of this. But there's a lot of it that you kind of have to, like, God, how do I do this? Because you're going to fail so many times.
Yeah, I mean, Kate and I talk about this all the time about how like God equips us for the season that we're in and gives us knowledge for the season that we're in. And if he were to give it to us prior to that season, we wouldn't know how to handle it. We wouldn't know how to process it. And we would kind of toss it to the side because it's not pertinent to us right now. And if God told us, years back, the things that he would be telling us now, like we'd be so overwhelmed and like wouldn't know how to process it. And even I think, TJ, I think Emily and I were talking about that the other day when Thea split her chin open.
Yeah.
I messaged her and I was like, I don't know how do you navigate your kid getting hurt and like how like blood pouring out and like all that stuff. Like I feel like my heart would just be broken. And she said pretty much the exact same thing, was like God just gives you the knowledge of how to handle stuff in the moment. When you're reliant on him and you kind of have that open communication with him, he gives you the information you need and the knowledge you need in the moment and in the season that you need. And super thankful for that. And yeah.
She's Superwoman.
I could definitely expand on that because I think I have some good stories on it, but I digress. I definitely
You're already past your bedtime.
I'm way past my bedtime, but I agree.
Yeah,
I think that
almost 11 there.
Yeah, I think God ordains. I think just even with like meeting people, like I have like a weird story for you guys. Like I met this guy, and it goes into like God ordains things way before we ever like even before we understood like why we met a certain person or like why we had that interaction, And I this funny story, like I met this guy on and I say guy, he was the same age as I was. We were like 12 or 13 and we met on this Beyblade forum like 20 years ago. Literally, it's like 20 years ago this year.
Beyblade subreddit.
Yeah, dude, it was called Off the Chain. It was like a Beyblade forum before they even had social media and stuff.
That's a sick name. That's a sick name for Beyblade.
So we were like super into this stuff. And, I met this guy, his name's Clay. Shout out Clay if you're listening. But yeah, dude, I met this guy on this forum. We were the same age. We both had been homeschooled. I think I was in school at that point. Maybe I was still homeschooled. I can't remember. But we both were like homeschooled. It was just really cool, like why I met this guy. But anyways, we reconnected like a couple weeks ago, like maybe like 2 months ago. And he found me on Facebook, and like it was so funny because I was like, oh God, like I know that after we lost connection, like he went to Bible school and stuff like that. And I'm like, all right, well, I know how some people feel about this whole blurry creatures thing and some of the Bible topics that I'm interested in and some of the research and whatnot. Like I just know how formally trained Christians think of me in some aspects. Shout out Ethan. And so I was a little bit nervous to add him on Facebook, right? And so I added him, and like the first message I got from him, he goes, "So you're blurry too, huh?" And I was like, "No way." Well, anyways, my whole point is that like, we've been reading this book together. It's called Unoffendable, and
dude, I saw your Instagram post. I was like, damn.
It's so good. Like it's exactly what I needed in this time. And I'm just like, I talked to him today for like an hour on my lunch break. And I'm just like, I was laughing. I was like, Clay, we literally met over Beyblade. Like, God had us meet all these years ago. We never understood it. We lost touch. And now here you are discipling me. You're like an answer to prayer, because I'm like, I need somebody to disciple me in these areas. And one of those areas was offense and anger. And it was like, he didn't know that. I never told him that. He's like, dude, I got this book. Like, I want to read this book with you. And here we are. So I think it's so cool. To go back on your point, Garrett, I think it's so cool how God uses things. Like who would have known that, I would have connected with somebody at 12 years old over a stupid toy that would turn into a relationship where like, we're both discipling each other in Christ and, moving closer to Christ. It's a beautiful thing. So I think you're so right on that. Like if we were able to see the future, it wouldn't really make sense to where we're at now. have to, in every moment, we just have to trust God, like in our friendships and in who he brought into our lives. And like, I feel the same way about you guys. Like we met on a video game platform, and here we are talking about Christ and parenthood. And so crazy. I think it's like, when you think of those things, if God would show you and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to send you to the Warzone Moron so that after that, you guys could do a podcast, even when most of you aren't even in that Discord anymore. And like, here's how it's going to roll, and I think it's like, so often we seek the future, we seek what's going to happen. And TJ said before the podcast rolled, like something about his pastor's wife said, it's about, it's really about what we're doing in the moment and how we're living in the moment, and just trusting that God's like got everything else, our past and our future under control, and not getting like,
so bogged down in preps for the future. That you're missing all the opportunities in the now.
Exactly. Yeah. So who are you think about it? Like, who are you guys meeting now that you're connecting with? Like, maybe it's, in this situation, Clay's pouring into me because he's got, 6 years of Bible college under his belt and just a vast amount of knowledge. And so it's just, it's so cool. And I think about that. It's like, who am I meeting right now that I am called to pour into their life, and the same goes for you guys. Like, who are you guys meeting in your day, and it's and I think it's like that with our kids too. I think we can't see the future, but all we can control is what we do with them now. And that's really helped me, because before it was like so hung up on like, I don't want my kids to turn out like this. And it's like, okay, but if I just focus on myself, I'm just playing video games myself, I'm just burying myself in work, like, and not interacting with them and having a relationship with them, then it's I can't expect, I don't know. Basically what I'm saying is like, we have to really get back to living in the moment, not in a way that's irresponsible, but living in the moment in a way that's like Christ called us to live in the moment. If we're truly supposed to be childlike to inherit the kingdom, then we truly have to live in the moment like children do. And I think that's what makes not the best parent, not a perfect parent, but I think that's what gives us the best effort to be a solid parent. And I end on that.
I agree with that.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I think the thing that that keeps running through my mind when it comes to technology and everything that there is with that when it comes to parenting is just the phrase, what the enemy meant for evil, you turn around for good. And that's a promise that we can cling on to, that Jesus says is, and that's just something I claim all the time when things aren't looking great, or there's an uphill battle that we're facing. I'm like, man, you're somehow like, the enemy meant this for evil, but you're going to turn this around for good. Yeah, like there's good in this, and I may not see it, but I cling to that hope and that promise that you're going to turn this around for good. And
absolutely,
it can seem overwhelming, and it can seem daunting to try to navigate parenting with technology and everything that comes along with it. But man, as long as we're relying on Christ and relying on what he's teaching us, like, he's going to turn it around for good.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So with that, thank you guys so much for jumping on tonight. Gordo, we really did miss you. I'm really glad to see your face. I love what you have to say all the time. And same goes for the rest of you guys. You guys all have really good stuff to say, and I'm really thankful for you, and really glad that, as Gordo said, we met playing a dumb video game. Well, hey, if you guys have any questions or topics you want us to talk about, please reach out on Instagram or YouTube or email, or our P.O. box is, thank you so much for listening. Please give us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening on, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Music, Samsung Podcast Indexed, Listen Notes, and RSS Community. Wherever you get your podcast, we are there. Until next time.
I'm Gordo. Is that what I'm supposed to say? Or bye. Bye.
I'm TJ.
And I'm Garrett. Remember that being good enough isn't the goal. The goal is progress over perfection. Let's all try to be a little bit better this week than we were last week. You got this. Take care. Brush your hair. Love you. Bye.